Hi everyone, my name is Kenneth Bruni, and this is going to be our first lab for Esseng 201. So in this particular lab, we are going to look at an installation guide for Python and Visual Studio Code. So as we did in our first class, I introduced Python to you and everything that we are going to cover. And since this is going to be a practically oriented hands-on course, we'd want to take everything from scratch. And kindly bear with me if you already know some of these things I'm going to talk about, but it is important we give the benefit of doubt to every student. So this PDF material is going to be included or is going to be attached to the video I'm recording. So it is a very simple process. We have a table of content over here, and we are going to look at downloading Python. That's the first thing we are going to do. Then we'll look at installing Python. Then we are going to check for the Python installation. Then we'll go through downloading Visual Studio Code. Remember, the Visual Studio Code is the IDE or the application we are going to use to code. Now, after downloading Visual Studio Code, we are going to do the installation of that particular software. Now, we are going to install a Python extension in Visual Studio Code. These are very simple processes we are going to see. And finally, we'll start writing some code in Visual Studio Code or IDE. Remember, IDE is an acronym for Integrated Development Environment. So you can follow through this. I have some visuals over here. So for instance, the first thing we are going to look at is downloading Python. So the first point over here is visit the Python official website using the link below. And there's a link. So I can actually click on this. I'm going to right click and open this up in a new tab. So this is going to open up, and you could see that the interface may look a little bit different, but then it is the same thing, because from time to time things get updated over here. And this I prepared somewhere last year, so some few things may change, but I think you get a point. Everything is almost going to be the same. So this is going to be the first thing. Then we are also going to look at how we actually download the Python software over here. So this point 2, and you can see that I've actually linked every point number with a tag over here, so you can actually see what you are supposed to do for each point. So point 2, we need to hover the mouse on the download link. This is a download link. We just need to hover our mouse, and this window is going to pop up, or this drop down is going to show up over here. Now click on Python 3.10.2 link to download the latest version of Python. So at the time I was preparing this material, which was somewhere last year, this was about the latest version of Python. Now if you are to follow that same process over here, remember there's a download. When you hover around this, you could see that there has been an upgrade. So that was Python 3.10.2. we've now gone to Python 3.11.1. and we can look at this. Now remember, this is for Windows download. For those of you using Mac OS, you can actually see that there's a link over here. You click on this and the rest of it is pretty much the same. So over here, I'm just going to click on this to start the download, and you could see that it is a very small file, about 24 megabytes. So you could see that the download is complete. And that's just about it. So we are done with the download. Now we need to do the installation. And the installation is just like any installation you've ever done in the past. So I'm just going to go to my downloads and show you exactly what we have and proceed with the installation. So over here, I'm in my downloads folder. As you can see, my PC downloads. And this is exactly what I downloaded. So you can see that we have Python 3.11.1. So let's come back to what we have over here. And we are just going to double click on the downloaded Python executable file to start the installation process. So that's going to be very simple. We just double click on this and the installation wizard is going to pop up. So whilst we wait for that installation wizard to pop up, that's currently what I have over here. You could see that yes, the installation wizard will pop up. That's the 0.5, and we need to make sure that we add Python 3.10 to path. So we need to check this checkbox, and this checkbox is what we see over here. Now this is very important, so you just have to pay attention and follow along. So this is the installation wizard, and this is exactly what I'm referring to. So we need to add this to path so that our computer system recognizes that we have some Python system, or we are trying to integrate Python onto our computer. So this is very important. If you fail to do this, you probably have to uninstall and install back again. So you could see that we have two options. We have the install now and customize installation. And for the purpose of this installation, we are going to select the install now option, because customize installation is going to lead us to a lot of things we may not need for now. So at this point, install now is the option we are going to go in for. So I'll click on install now. And the setup or the installation process will continue from this point. So it will probably take, let's say, about a minute or two. This wouldn't take too long, and we'll be done with the installation. So at this point, I'll pause the video, and as and when it is done, we'll make progress. Okay, so just about now, we could see that we have setup was successful. So everything is successful now, and that will lead us to this part of the installation. So setup was successful, so we just have to follow suit and click on this button, close. So I'm going to come in here and I'll close. So now we are done. But upon installation, we need to check. So we have to check Python installation. So all that we need to do is to follow through with this step 9. So in the Windows search area, type in CMD. So this is my search area, and I'm going to type in CMD. All right. So for those of you using, I think, MacBook, you definitely know that the equivalent of the command prompt in Windows is the terminal. So you need to check using the terminal. So I'll click on this, and the instructions you see over here shows that I typed in CMD in step 9, and in step 10, I'm clicking on this in order to launch the commands prompt window. And inside of the commands prompt window, that's exactly what we have over here. We are going to follow through with these 2 steps. So the first thing to do is to, inside of the terminal, we need to type in Python -- version, as you can see over here. And we need to emphasize, or I need to emphasize on the fact that we are typing 2 dashes. So this is exactly what I want you to do. So this is my command prompt window. I'm going to type in Python -- and I'll say version. Now I'll press enter. Now, if you did exactly what I am doing, okay, you are most likely going to see Python 3.11.1, and that's exactly the version of the Python we downloaded over here. Okay, now for those of you using MacBook, I know MacBook comes with an already installed Python, and those versions are like very low. I think Python 2.7 or something like that. You need a high version of Python, so you are most likely going to see maybe 2 versions of Python if you are using MacBook. Don't worry, the most important thing is if you follow through this process, you are most likely going to see the latest version of Python you downloaded, and in this case it's Python 3.11.1. So let's go back to our installation guide. So clearly we could see that we did this Python, then a space -- version, and as at the time of preparing this, the latest version of Python I had installed was Python 3.10.2. in this case, or in today's case, we are upgraded a little bit. So now that we know that Python is installed, we can actually start writing Python code in this terminal, and that's a very simple thing to do. So we need to type in Python to activate the Python interpreter into the command prompt. Now at this point, we can write Python code in the terminal. So that's what you see me do over here with point 13. So just type in Python, and some few things will change over here. So you can see that I have this command prompt over here. So I'll just type in Python, and when I press enter, you'll see that things have changed over here. So now you can see that I have Python 3.11.1, and there are some few things over here. I think this was when it was released, December 6th, 2022. I mean, just about a month ago. And the operating system stuff I have over here. And we can type in help, copyright, credit, or license for more information. Now, at this point, we can write Python code over here. And we can simply do something like 2 + 1. And when I press enter, we see 3 over here. There's a valid Python expression 2 + 1, or any logical expression that we may want to do. And we can proceed to coding everything we want over here. But that's not going to be an effective way of using our time, because there's a better way of actually handling this. Now, there's a note I have over here. Now, I'm saying that if you are not seeing the version of Python in your terminal, when you do Python then space -- version, if you don't see this, then probably you need to restart your computer. In my case, I didn't have to restart, but some systems you just have to restart and everything will be okay. But then if you are seeing everything as we have over here, then you are good to go. Now, if it still doesn't show up after restarting, then you need to uninstall the installation done and install again, following the exact steps. Okay, now there's a point I need to stress over here. Now make sure you check the add Python 3.10 to path checkbox as shown on page 4, and I think there was a typo over here. This is supposed to be page 5, and currently you can see that we're on page 10. So now let's go to page 4. Okay, yeah, I think this is page 4 exactly. So this is exactly what you need to do. Okay, so you need to add Python. This version in our case is going to be 3.11 to path, and this is what is going to link your system so that your computer gets in sync with Python. If you don't check this, you are most likely going to encounter the problems of whenever you type Python space -- version, you are not going to see it. And in that case, you just have Python sitting somewhere, but you haven't been able to link it with your computer system. So if you probably find yourself in such a situation, you just have to uninstall Python, and that's also a very simple process. Let me just show you. You just have to come to, for instance, go to your PC. Okay, now on your PC you click on uninstall or change a program. Then this is going to definitely bring all the installed programs you have on your computer system, and you just have to do that uninstallation over here. And if I scroll down, you are going to see that Python is going to be part of the applications you have over here. So this actually lists it in the alphabetical order, so MNOP. So Python will be after. You see you're having N programs over here. So yes, you could see that we are now at P. So as you can see now, I have Python 3.11.1. this is exactly what we installed, and we have the Python launcher. This is more or less a dependency that comes with this. You don't have to worry so much about this. Now when you click on this, you can now do an uninstallation. So you only do this if, for instance, you installed Python and what we just did to check on the command prompt is not working. Then you need to uninstall and start the process again, following exactly what we did. All right, so let me just close this and let's make progress. So now we are done with the Python installation. Let's look at how we install the Visual Studio Code. Remember, I said the Visual Studio Code is the IDE. It is an integrated development environment. It is a software that's in which we are going to write Python code instead of writing it in our terminal. Now we need to go to the website where we get this software. So we need to visit the Visual Studio Code, or in most cases we call it VS Code official website, by using the link below. So once again, I'll just do a right click and I'll open this in a new tab. So this is going to be the software we are going to use, or where we are going to download this. Now you could see that this is for Windows. We can also have for, I think this is versions of Linux. So we have Debian and Ubuntu. And if you are using Mac, you definitely also have to follow through this. But then I'm using Windows and I don't have a Mac machine to also record a Mac version of it, but it is pretty much same as any other application you have ever installed if you have been using Mac. So let's go to this. So we are on this website, and because I'm using Windows, I'm going to click on this. So you could see that point 2. Click on the appropriate link that applies to your computer system. In my case, I'm using a Windows machine, so I'm going to click on this link, and I'll click on this, and it gets me to this point. And at this point, you can see that it's a very simple installation process. The application will start downloading, the executable file will start downloading, as we see at the bottom left corner of our screen. So we'll have to wait for that to finish, and you could see that at this point the download will begin as shown on the bottom left corner of the screen. So that's what we have over here on point 3. Then on point 4, in some instances the download will halt with a prompt as shown below. So for today's download, it didn't halt. Okay, now your system may be wondering what kind of software are you trying to download. Okay, but then you need to click on the keep button to continue. So in this case, there was a prompt that the type of file can harm your computer. No, this is not going to harm your computer, so you just click on keep. But in this case, everything went through. So now we need to do the installation, and I'll once again come back. Currently you see that we have the VS Code executable file over here. It's the same process. We just have to do a double click and the installation wizard will appear. So as you can see on point 5, I would have to double click on the downloaded VS Code executable file to start the installation process, and the installation wizard will pop up. Now make sure you select accept the agreement radio button. So this is a license agreement you are provided with. You just have to accept. You can read, but at the end of the day you have to accept it. So that's essentially what I have over here. So this is a license. Yeah, so I'll check on this to agree. Then the next thing I'll need to do is to click on the next button over here. So as you can see, the point 8 is to click on the next button to continue. Then from here, it is just a matter of clicking next. We don't have to change or drastically change anything over here. I think the default path is okay for us. Let's click on next. Then it says folder exists. Okay, so I already had this installed, okay, and I uninstalled it and now doing a new installation. So that's why I have this folder sitting on my computer system. But then I would want to override this and click on yes. Now in your case, if it is going to be your first time, you're not going to have this, so you'll be good to go. Now we are left with this point on point 10 where we also need to click next over here. You see that there's a checkbox over here. So if you don't want to create a startup menu folder, you check this, but then we want to create this, so we just click on next. And we also want to have a desktop icon showing up so that you can just click it on the desktop and we are good to go. Now you can see that we also have this already checked. We don't have to touch this, so add to path. Now this requires shell restart, so we just check this one. We want a desktop icon and click on next. Then the rest of it is just clicking on this install and everything is going to go through. So it is setting up. This may take about a minute or two depending on how fast or how slow your computer system is, and you'll be good to go. So this has started, and once again I'll pause the video or I'll fast forward the video. When we are done, we'll continue. And that's essentially the steps we have covered over here. So this point 11, I wanted the desktop icon and I said it is optional. Then we'll click on next, we'll click on install, then finally this will continue. So this may take a while. Hopefully this is the next window we're expecting to see, and let's just wait for it to come. All right, so I think this was a little this window showing up over here. So it's completing the Visual Studio Code setup wizard. So it says setup has finished installing Visual Studio Code on your computer. The application may be launched by selecting the install shortcut, whatever. So if you have this already checked, when I click on finish, it is going to launch it right after. Okay. Alternatively, we can actually go onto our desktop. So I'm going to go into my desktop. Okay. And you could see that because we checked that we want the shortcut over here, you could see that we have the shortcut over here. So I can actually open this up and this is going to show up this way. And this is essentially going to be exactly what we have over here when you open VS Code for the first time. All right, so this is looking good. Now there are some few things we need to familiarize ourselves with, especially with the environment. So at this point, the Visual Studio Code ID will be launched, and that's exactly what we can see over here. Now I'm quickly going to explain some few things over here as we move along with our labs, weekly labs. We are definitely going to understand every session of this application interface, but then there are some few things you need to just understand. So you could see that we have some tabs over here. You have file, you have edit, selection, view, go, run, terminal, and help. Now when you click on file, and this is similar to almost every graphical user interface application, you know, for instance with MS Word, you know, when you click on file, you could see options. Sorry, let me just click on it again. You could see options like save and save as. So these are also the shortcuts. You can see Control S and Control Shift S to activate the save as option over here. Good. So these are with the tabs over here. Then you also have some tabs at the left side of this GUI. And when I say GUI is graphic, I mean, it's acronym for GUI. That's graphical user interface. So over here, there's an Explorer. When I click on this Explorer, it just kind of links us to the folders on our computer systems. Okay. Then you have this search. We can search for anything we are looking for in here. Then we have this source control. So this source control, once again, in order to use Git features, you can open a folder containing a Git repository or clone from a URL. Remember, I made mention in class that we are going to learn Git and GitHub, and this is one of the reasons why this is a graphical user interface, because what happens here is we can actually integrate a lot of third-party stuff into this application and everything is going to look good. Now you can see that we also have a button over here that's run and debug. We are going to touch on this briefly as we move along. Then you have this extension button over here, which we are going to download an extension very soon, so you'll see how we go about this. But the extensions are basically, as the name suggests, they give the Visual Studio Code environment some add-on features. Okay, they are like plugins. So it's just like going to a restaurant and you are presented with a menu, but then there are some side menus or some petty things that you can add onto your menu in order to enhance the vitality or how rich your menu is. Especially if you are rich, you don't mind maybe adding an extra salad or other things like that. Okay, so these are extensions and we are going to download some of them as we move along. Now these extensions or the ability to download extensions in VS Code is probably one of the reasons why VS Code stands out as compared to other IDEs. And that's simply because when we download these extensions, we get the opportunity to enhance the features we have over here, and it improves our productivity because a lot of things will be added or given to us. Then we have this NX console, which we probably may not need as we move along. Then there's also a settings tab over here. We can change some settings over here. For instance, if you want to change the color, the file icon, and things like that, keyboard shortcuts, you can just look up some of these things over here. Then you can sign in. Currently I have an account. This is actually my GitHub account. That's Cambridge. I mean, we'll talk about that later on, but then I'm signed in some way, somehow. Don't worry. Okay, so for now, let's click on this Explorer And let's get back to what we have over here. So currently this is the point where we are. Now we would want to look at this, and that's installing Python extension in VS Code. So click on the extension icon on the left side of the application interface, okay, and this is the side, and we'll need to type in Python in the search bar. So let me go back to VS Code, and I'll click on the extensions tab over here, and over here I'm going to. So for this to happen, you actually need internet, because this is third-party applications we are installing. We're going to install Python extension. So as you can see over here, we have Python, and when I just hover around this and bring the cursor over here, you can see that we have IntelliSense, and that's Pylance. So please, one of the things I'm going to ask, like I said, you need to follow these labs. I'm going to ask you in your next quiz, what is IntelliSense? So you need to just do a Google search and search on this. But what I can say for now is almost as if I'm asking you a question and give you an answer at the same time. But this IntelliSense is more or less the a feature like giving you or predicting for you the next thing you are going to type, so that it increases your productivity. So instead of typing everything, you just have to type, let's say, a letter or two, and the options are going to pull up, and we are going to see that. So linting, debugging, and other things over here, and you can see that this is from a verified account. Okay, this is from Microsoft. So it says this publisher has verified ownership of Microsoft.com. So now when I click on this, if you are doing this for the first time, let me show you exactly how your interface is going to look like. So you could see that now you click on the Python extension. Okay, now this extension is written by Microsoft and has over 51 million downloads, and the number of downloads is what you have over here. So currently, or as at the time I prepared this material, it was at 51.6 million, and I think a number of people have downloaded it since then, because this material was prepared somewhere last year. So when you click on this, now click on the install button to start the installation process of this Python extension for VS Code. So now you just have to click this install button. You don't have to click this drop down, just click on this, and if this is your first time, this is what we are going to see. Then at this point, the button will change to installing as shown below. So we are going to see installing. Then finally, after a successful installation, a disable and uninstall button will appear. So these two buttons, and that's exactly what I have over here, because I already have this installed from my previous installation that I did. The settings were already there. So you can see that I have disabled and have uninstall, and I'm seeing uninstall over here because I already have it installed. So eventually, if you follow through with that process, you are going to see this as well. Now we just have to see how some of these things work. So click on the close icon to close the extension window, as you can see, and then we need to repeat same to get started and things of that sort. Okay, so at this point, then we are going to write Python code in VS Code or Visual Studio Code. Now there are some instructions over here. So at this point, create a folder on desktop. I have created the folder and named it Python, and we are going to see how we look at things over here. So I'm just going to close this, and I'm also going to close this, and I'll come to this point. Now what I need to do is I need to come to my desktop, and I'm going to create a folder over here, and I'll just right click, go to folder, and I'm going to call this Python. Please choose a name that makes sense, and I think Python programming or anything along that line will be okay. So I'll come back here and I'll just click on file, and on this I'm going to click on open folder. Remember, there's an open file option and we have open folder. I want open folder because I want to select the folder that I just created, and I'm just going to navigate my way through. Remember, it is on my desktop, so I just need to click on desktop and finally select this folder. So when I click on this, I'm now going to be left with this option to select folder. Now click on select folder. Now this is more or less going to restart our system. So I'm just going to click anywhere in here, and you can see that I have these icons showing up over here. Now, most of the time, you are only going to work with these two. Okay, so when I hover my mouse around this, you can see that I have new file popping up over here. And also when I hover my mouse around this, you can see that I have a new folder. So, I mean, some of these things are quite intuitive. So if you want to create a new file, you just have to click on this. And if you want to create a new folder, you click on this. And this is going to be created inside of this Python folder we have created. So I'm just going to click on this, and it is expecting of me to write in the name of the file. So I'll call this app.py and I'll press enter. So when I type in app.py, it automatically opens it up for me. And over here, I can start typing anything I would want to type if I definitely would want to write Python code over here. Now, at this point, our system is, kind of resetting itself. Remember, this is an integrated development environment. We can use this same environment to write different code in different languages. At this point, we expect the interpreter to be selected and for it to be in sync with VS Code. But at the moment, it is not showing up now. If you are lucky, it is automatically going to sync up, but in our case, it's not showing up, and I'm just going to show you why it's not showing up and how we go about it. So if you don't see anything, okay, on this particular tab showing your Python version, and eventually when I go through this, we are going to see it show up later, then we need to do some reconfiguration. All right, so upon restarting our system, okay, I closed it and I restarted, and clearly we can see that we have this Python version that we downloaded and installed linking up over here. Now, remember in class, I've always maintained that Python is a high level language. So Python has some vocabularies, okay, that it understands, okay, and humans can also understand and write code in those high level language. And whenever you write that language, it is converted or interpreted into some machine code that the hardware, the CPU, understands. And some of that vocabulary is what I demonstrated in class as print. So if I'm to type print, now I know there is print, but imagine I'm just trying to think about anything. Immediately I type P. Because of the intelligence that I have in the extension I just downloaded, you could see that I'm getting some help over here. So it is giving me an auto completion feature, and this is where I tell students that you don't need to memorize everything into your head. You just have to have an understanding of what you need to do, and the moment you even remember the first two letters, for instance PR, you see that it sorts it out and give me things that pertains to what I want to type. Now you could also see that there are some icons over here. Don't worry too much about this. Definitely when we meet in class, we are going to explain these icons. So for instance, this is more or less like a cube. The one we have next to property is like a tree-like icon. You also have this tree-like icon over here. So clearly, if your guess is as good as mine, then maybe property and something like process lookup error may belong to some category of something, and we are representing this by an icon of a tree. And this print will also belong to some category of something we are representing by an icon, as we see over here. Now when I remove the R and we have just P, you can see that we have print, we have POW, and this print and POW also has the same icon. Now you can see that we have pass, and that also comes with a different icon of its own. And like I said, as we move along, we are going to see a lot of these icons, and these icons are eventually going to inform us on what these variables are and what they represent. It's very important. So let me just complete this by writing print. I can use the arrow key to navigate my way up and down, but then immediately I'm on print and press enter. It picks up print, and inside of this, just as we wrote 1 + 2 inside of the terminal, okay, when we came here, let me actually do this once again. So first of all, let me clear this and let me go into Python. So I'll type in Python over here, And now if I'm to do, for instance, let's say 1 plus 2, I get 3 over here. Alternatively, I could have done it this way and print into brackets 1 plus 2. And when I press enter, I still get 3 over here. So like I said, we can write Python code over here, and VS Code, we can write Python code over here. But VS Code is giving us extra features because of IntelliSense, we don't have to type everything about print. We just have to type probably PR and the options will come. We just select that one and we move on. But in the case of the terminal, we have to type everything. There's no autocomplete feature for us. So we can actually do the 1 plus 2 over here. And you could see that we have this whitish dot thing over here. And this is showing up because we haven't saved our work. So clearly you can see that we have 1 unsaved. Okay. Now when I do a Control S, that's the shortcut for saving. You can see that it vanishes or it changes and the 1 unsaved also disappears. Now in order to run this, we need to understand some few things over here. Now you can see that there's a terminal. Okay, so I can click on this terminal option and I'll click on new terminal, and it has this shortcut. That's the Control Shift and the backtick. So I'll just click on this and this terminal window opens up over here. Now this terminal, as we see it, is the same thing as we have it over here. So let me once again press exit, or I mean do exit over here. Now I come back to the normal Windows terminal. Now within this normal Windows terminal, you can control your computer from this terminal, and I believe a lot of you know that. So we can actually open applications from this terminal, and for simplicity's sake, and also I think Notepad, everybody has Notepad on his or her computer. So when you type Notepad just like this and press enter, it launches Notepad. Okay, good. And let me just close this, and just to demonstrate that what we have over here and what we are seeing over here is the same. So for instance, when I type in Notepad in this terminal as well and press enter, it opens up Notepad and we can use Notepad over here. So I'll close this once again. Now in order for this to work, we have saying that, okay, print something that is 1 plus 2. We are later going to know, or we are going to get into the intricacies of what is happening over here. But then just to be confident that our installation is working, everything is okay, we just have to follow this step. So after doing this, there's this button we have over here. Now when I hover around it, it says run Python file. So when I click on this icon, you can see that the application runs and we get 3 over here. Now let me just change this to, let's say, 8. So 8 plus 2, and I did a Control S to save it. And now when I run this, you can see that I have 10 over here. And it is going to be the same if I come back in here, type in Python, and try typing, let's say, 8 plus 2. Now when I run this, I also get 10 over here. So the point I'm trying to make is, now Python, or through VS Code, we have this command prompt integrated in here. So you don't have to open command prompt and be typing, because this is going to be a waste of our time. So I mean, finally, let me just close this up. We have this command prompt window in the terminal, okay, option over here, and we can type in things over here. And because we have IntelliSense, we can also maneuver our way through. All right, so this is going to be probably your first Python code of this installation process. Definitely when we meet in class on Tuesday, we are going to delve into it, and please write every question you may have down, so that once we meet in class, we'll be able to go through this and see how things work. Now, one of the last things I would want to mention, and this is actually something I never thought of doing, but then I need to say this now. I probably have an idea of what people who have a very good understanding of this whole process will be like. Oh, say you are wasting our time, like we already know this, let's move on, and things like that. Now the assumption is a lot of people may not know everything we are doing over here, so I really want to take my time and grab everybody along, okay, so that we don't go halfway and people get confused. Remember what I told you about Tim Duncan, the fundamentals is very important. So in order to give you a little bit of confidence, in order to assure you that I know what I'm doing, but just take your time and you are going to learn along, I actually have something I would want to share with you. And this I've never done before, but I believe, well, my internet is not too fast. This I've not done before, but then I believe as we move along, some of these things are going to come in handy. You are going to benefit from the resources I'm going to share with you. All right, so right over here, let me just show you this. So let's go to my YouTube channel. I actually have a YouTube channel, and the name of my channel is Kembro Tech. So like my name, Kenneth Bruni, and I just added tech over here. So if you do a search of Kembro Tech, you are going to get to this point, and when you click on this, when you go to the about, I started somewhere, I think about 3 years ago. August will be 3 years ago since I started, and as you can see, my name is over here. I just want to show you this is actually my channel, and I've been on and off. The last time I posted a video was about 5 months ago, but I have some interesting content over here. So currently, if you look through some of my popular videos, I have about 33k about a year ago, 33k about a year ago, and some few things over here. And these are, very good things you can learn as we move along. But the whole point I'm trying to make is, I know what I'm doing. Just follow along, and even if you think I'm slowing you down, just be patient, okay? Because we'll get to a level and you see that yes, we are learning something. And once again, I'm definitely going to make things very practical. Everybody is going to have an understanding of everything we are doing over here. All right, so of course you can subscribe to the channel, even only if you are going to watch. If you are not going to watch, don't bother yourself, because those of you in the computer engineering class knows I've been doing this all along. I never told anyone, not because I don't want to share with students, but I feel if you are really interested, that is where, or that is when you need to engage yourself in some of these things. All right, so we'll meet in class and we'll continue from where we ended off. We are going to write very interesting applications. Definitely in class, I'll show you some of the applications we'll be working on and some of the interesting things you are going to see for yourself. Thank you, and if you have any question, we'll meet in class, write them down, and I'll give you answers to that. Bye bye.